So picture this. It's early December, and India's biggest airline, IndiGo, basically just melts down. We're talking about a full-blown operational crisis that created this massive domino effect of cancellations, leaving thousands and thousands of travelers completely stranded all over the country. Now, this wasn't just a bad couple of days for an airline. No, this became a national headline. It got so big, it pulled in the courts, the regulators, and even the government.
To really get what went down, we're going to break it apart. First, we'll look at the sheer scale of the meltdown. Then, we'll dig into the new rule that kind of sparked the whole thing. After that, we'll see how the officials stepped in, what IndiGo did in response, and finally, what this all means for the bigger picture of India's entire aviation industry. All right, first up, the meltdown itself. Before we get into all the reasons why it happened, let's just take a moment to understand the human cost, the absolute chaos that people felt in airports, from Delhi all the way to Bengaluru.
The numbers here are just staggering. In only 8 days, starting on December 2nd, IndiGo canceled more than 4,600 flights. That's hundreds of planes grounded every single day, absolutely wrecking travel plans for, well, countless people.
And get this isn't some angry tweet from a stranded passenger. This is a direct quote from the Delhi High Court. The court was officially taking notice of just how bad things had gotten for everyone. That right there tells you the problem had escalated way, way beyond a simple customer service issue. And if you want some perspective on this, just look at one single airport, Mumbai. Over 40,000 passengers were directly hit by cancellations in just those first 8 days. And you have to remember, this exact same story was playing out in Delhi and Bengaluru, and at hubs all across the country. It was a nationwide mess.
Right, so you're probably wondering what on earth caused this chaos. Well, it didn't just happen out of the blue. The trigger was actually a brand new set of government safety regulations, and they were all about preventing pilot fatigue. And that brings us to this key acronym you need to know, FDTL. It stands for Flight Duty Time Limitations. Basically, these were new, much stricter rules aimed at making flying safer by making sure pilots are properly rested and not overworked. You know, a really good goal.
And let me be clear, we're not talking about some minor little changes here. The head of the International Air Transport Association even pointed out that these new Indian rules were way more restrictive than what you see in the rest of the world. So the safety bar was being raised, and it was being raised high.
And the pilots themselves? They were not messing around. As soon as the crisis hit and people started talking about maybe getting temporary exemptions, the Airline Pilots Association of India pushed back, and they pushed back hard. Their representative, Captain Anil Rao, basically said, no way. He warned that any compromise on these new fatigue rules, even for a little while, was a direct compromise on safety.
Okay, so you've got chaos at the airports, a huge debate over safety. The authorities had to step in. They really had no choice. And when they did, they came in fast and decisively. I mean, just look at what happened on a single day, December 10th. The day starts with the government ordering IndiGo to slash its flight schedule by 10%. By lunchtime, the High Court is hearing a case about it. An hour later, the aviation regulator, the DGCA, summons the airline's CEO. And by the afternoon, a special oversight team is put together. It was just this rapid-fire response from all sides. But the Delhi High Court? They were not impressed. They aimed this really sharp question right at the government, basically asking, hey, you let this whole situation blow up, and then you decided to act? Why did you let it get this bad in the first place? In response to all this pressure, the DGCA, the aviation regulator, went into full crackdown mode. They formed an oversight team, permanently stationed officers right inside IndiGo's headquarters, and ordered on-site inspections at airports all over the country. And all of this was on top of enforcing that 10% schedule cut. The message was crystal clear. Business as usual was completely over. So how did the airline at the center of this whole storm react? With pressure coming from passengers, the courts, and the regulators, let's take a look at what IndiGo did. At first, there was this pretty big disconnect between what the airline was saying and what was actually happening. You had the CEO claiming that operations were stabilizing, but on that exact same day, nearly 220 more flights were canceled. What people were hearing just wasn't matching what they were seeing at the airport. But as the pressure kept building, the tone completely changed. The airline's chairman, Vikram Singh Mehta,
came out with this very direct, very clear video apology. He admitted that the airline had failed its customers and said he was truly, truly sorry for all the trouble they caused. So after that public apology, IndiGo went into full-on damage control mode. They did what the regulators asked and submitted a new, smaller flight schedule. They also made sure to address claims about trying to influence the new rules. And, importantly, they cut their financial forecast for the quarter, which was a clear admission of just how badly this crisis had hit their business. So you might be thinking, okay, one airline had a really bad week. Why does this matter to everyone else? Well, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture that this whole crisis brought to light. Because at the end of the day, this was way bigger than just an IndiGo problem. Think of it like a massive stress test for India's entire aviation system. It put these tough new safety rules up against an airline's readiness, and the airline failed. It raised serious questions about market dominance. In fact, one critic called it a collective failure of the airline, the regulator, and the government. And it immediately led to calls for more competition, so that one airline's problems can't bring the whole system to a standstill again. And so that leaves us with this big final question. Was this huge disruption just a painful but necessary growing pain on the road to better air safety? Or was it a symptom of a much deeper systemic failure, where the airline, the regulator, and the government all dropped the ball? The answer to that is probably going to shape the future of flying in India for a long time to come.